Everyone, I am Dr. Lisa Andrews, Director of Integrated Career Development here at the School of Continuing Studies at Georgetown University. Welcome in today to our LinkedIn Live presentation. We're at a moment in leadership expectations where they're evolving quite rapidly. Organizations are asking leaders to deliver measurable results while also building cultures of belonging, trust, and alignment. And at the same time, on top of all of that, AI is really reshaping how decisions are made and how teams operate. So today's conversation focuses on how leaders can both elevate human impact and bottom line performance, and how tools like generative AI are becoming part of that equation. So let me introduce our panelists that we have today. I am joined by the distinguished Dr. Jessica Shrikantia, the academic director and associate professor of the practice at Georgetown's Institute for Transformational Leadership, who designed this program, and Ariel, Scotten, program manager, and I'll be moderating our conversation today. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. All right. So to begin with, I really like to focus on what leaders and organizations will actually gain from this program and experience. So to Jessica, I'd like to start with our first question, which is if you could describe the key benefits of the certificate and what learners will be able to actually do differently as a result of completing the program. And if you could tell a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. And also, just to clarify and give credit where credit's due, I play a supporting role here, and our faculty that developed it is Paco Valencia, and also with support from Jeff Warner on the artificial intelligence piece as well. So just wanted to clarify that. And thank you for the question, Lisa. So this certificate will enable participants to dive deep into how to find their own authentic leadership and values-based style in the context of still delivering the kinds of results that the organizations need in this time. And as you said, how to use AI to help in that process. So this certificate, it enables, like, there's pieces of it that work with assessment and giving leaders the chance to see their own blind spots, and so they can see what are the things that they're not aware of that are actually playing out in their leadership, and how can they become aware of that and then use that to create the results they actually want to create. So that's one piece of it. And then another piece of it is around how to create an alignment in organizational strategy so that the leader's values, the organization's values, and the team and the individual contributor, the employee's values are all in alignment and working in the same direction. And how to do that in the context of so much disruption that's happening right now in our world for organizations. And so to be able to make fast decisions that are aligned and attuned, and that's where the intelligent use of artificial intelligence comes in, and in supporting leaders to be able to use AI to scan more of the environment, to engage better with stakeholders, and also with their own thinking. So these are just a few of the dimensions that are in this certificate. There's so many more, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think it sounds to me like this will kind of raise leaders' awareness, sort of self-awareness. I often think leaders don't take the time really to kind of take a little bit of a step back and kind of assess their own leadership, really, because they're so busy maybe putting out fires or, looking into the future and creating strategic plans and reporting to a board. So it's almost like a retreat for them in a way to, take a step back, reflect on things, and really kind of move their leadership to the next level. Some of them may sort of casually use AI, but then, this is really teaching them to fully integrate it, I would say, or add it to their practice, right?
Absolutely, Lisa. And
Yeah.
I love how you framed that. And it's so true. Leaders are so busy nowadays,
Yes.
right? And so the beauty of the certificate is it's 3 intensive days. So it's a short burst. And then once leaders, and that includes managers, it also includes consultants who are helping leaders and managers and organizations, right? So all of these professionals, it will help them to learn how to be more effective and efficient in their leadership so that when they go back, instead of having to take time out to be reflective, they're going to be learning, they will have learned how to be reflective in the process of making their decisions.
Right. Exactly. Super. So much richness there. So that brings me to the next question. So what kind of professional is the certificate really designed for? Who would really benefit the most from participating? You mentioned, briefly a few, but if you could unpack that a little bit.
Absolutely. So, certainly executive level leaders
Mhm.
would get a lot out of the certificate because they would be able to look across the full range of organizational strategy and planning and decision making, as well as alignment. In addition, managers at all levels can get a lot out of the certificate because it will help them understand what's going on with their teams. It'll help them find how to create and support alignment between what their unit is delivering, what their team is delivering, and the strengths and interests and values of their team members, as well as their own strengths and interests and values. So it can work across the levels of the organization. And in addition, it can be very valuable for consultants who need
Mm.
to support leaders at all levels in an organization and teams as well, to have tools and approaches for helping the leaders get on the leading edge.
You know what might be really interesting when you said that not only, executive or senior leadership and then managers as well will really benefit from this, but what might be really even more interesting is if they could all take it together, kind of as a group. So, your executive leader, and then, your managers that report to you, so that you're all really speaking that language together. And it seems to me, would really kind of enhance the whole executive structure and sort of top level of that org chart, to really, sort of have this philosophy almost infiltrate the organization and have everyone kind of operating in the same, in the same way to lead.
That's a fantastic idea, Lisa. That would be a wonderful way to really kickstart organizational progress. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
then also for people who don't are not able to pull in their team or other members of the organization, it's also open for them to join just as individuals and really learn these skills and then take it back. So it's open
exactly.
to however people want to participate. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, Ariel will talk a little bit later about, tuition discounts and that kind of thing. So there might be, some benefit to doing that as an organization. So we kind of touched on AI a little bit, and I know people are probably really curious about, okay, how does AI really impact this certificate? How has it, how will it be taught in terms of why AI? Really, as a leader, do I have to do this? Do I need to get on this fast moving train? So my question to you is, how does the certificate really specifically support leaders in using AI effectively, not just casual users, reply, prompt reply, but actually as more strategic use of it, strategic decision makers who can kind of integrate it responsibly, but yet productively into their own leadership practice.
What a great question, Lisa. Absolutely. So, this certificate is designed to give participants a very hands-on as well
Mm,
as deeply critically thinking perspective. So they'll learn how to think critically about their use of AI. They'll learn how to get AI to do much more complex kinds of partnerships. So they
Mhm.
have, for example, scenarios and case studies and really stress testing what they're getting from the AI and using the AI to help illuminate aspects of their context that they maybe weren't considering, and then feeding that back and having the AI actually evaluate itself even, and then evaluating the AI so they can really get a sense for how is the AI functioning, and how can it help them to function beyond what they might be able to see on their own.
Yeah. I like that you said they're gonna do some hands-on, work and stuff like that. So we're not, they're not just going to be preached to about, yes, you should be using AI and this is why it's so great, but they're really gonna dig in there and kind of, you could maybe talk a little bit about, or if Ariel wants to jump in about potentially, they don't need to know how to code and that kind of thing. It's not that deep into it, but really, are there sort of lab type of experiences within these intensive days that they can kind of dig in and practice a little bit and maybe, work in small groups or work together to kind of see how this actually happens in real life?
Exactly, Lisa. Yes. So they will have an opportunity to do an AI lab where they can work through case studies and in small groups. So the participants will have a chance to learn from each other, which is such a rich opportunity because they bring different experiences and contexts, and then to be able to see and think across those is always a deep learning experience. So they will have an opportunity to do that in the context of thinking about their own organizational challenges as well.
Mhm.
Ariel, is there
Great.
anything you feel free to jump in also anytime, Ariel, that you'd like?
Thank you, Jessica. I guess a little bit more specifically, one of our modules focuses on making decisions under pressure and using generative AI as a real-time support tool to do that. Um, so some examples would, you know, identifying your scenario, so the situation that you have that you want to make a quick decision on, and using generative AI in a way to um, generate some, risks and benefits that might be in some outcomes, reframing the question, how to plan the scenario differently, and just going through these different steps with generative AI in order to use that as a tool and not just as a technical skill for leaders.
Yeah, that's
Right,
such a
right.
great point, Ariel. And just to piggyback on that for just a second,
Sure.
the time that we are in is one of such rapid change that exactly what you mentioned, Ariel, having the support of AI to make quick decisions that can be more informed than what we might be able to remember or think about when we do it by ourselves is a great advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, AI is not here to replace leadership, but effective leaders are going to be treating AI as a thinking partner and not
Mhm.
as the decision maker. So they really go hand in hand with great leadership.
Exactly.
Such a great point, Ariel. Absolutely. No one's, I mean, with any new industrial revolution, jobs are created, jobs are eliminated. But in this case, AI is your partner, not your replacement. So that is a really important point. I'm so glad you brought that up. I do want to touch on one thing before we move forward into maybe our last question. Then we'll turn it over to Ariel for some nuts and bolts details. You briefly mentioned the people you would be working with. And as an alum of 3 certificates, I can tell you that I not only gained knowledge and practical skills, but I gained a network. I joined the Georgetown family. And to me, that was almost as important and as impactful to me in terms of the people that I met and the ongoing relationships I've developed with them. We've created WhatsApp groups, we've met for DC and lunch. That was sort of an added perk I never even anticipated, because you're in class with people, your whole lives, you've gone to undergrad, grad school, whatever, and, you make friendships, you continue on. But in this case, since the certificates are fairly, tight and intensive and you're working really closely together, it's just so amazing the people that you meet and how that just enriches the whole experience. If you want to maybe comment on that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Lisa. That is such a benefit of the certificate. And I'll let Ariel also speak to the related discounts, alumni discounts that come up with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I go into that, just to reiterate, Lisa, you mentioned, how much you interact with that alumni network just outside of Georgetown. And we hear that so many times with all of our certificate programs, actually, that, these students are really staying linked with each other
Mm,
so much longer after the program has finished. This certificate is 3 intensive days, but some of our certificate programs are, 6 months or longer. And still,
right.
even after all of that time, the students are, meeting up with each other, they're networking professionally with one another. So it's really great to see, and it's a really great benefit of, any of the certificates that we have.
Yeah,
And yes,
definitely. I know I exchanged lots of business cards and, collected phone numbers and so forth. And like I said, I mean, we even, created a little lunch bunch and, met several times in DC after the certificates were over. So that was really kind of an added benefit. Yeah. So Ariel, do you want to kind of, talk about nuts and bolts? People are probably out there saying, okay, this all sounds great. Now, how do I get started?
absolutely. So as mentioned before, excuse me, this is, excuse me, gosh. This is 3 intensive days of learning. This is going to take place March 23rd to March 25th, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. This program is going to be in person at our Capitol campus location, which is 111 Massachusetts Avenue in DC. The class size is limited to 24 professional learners, so you're definitely going to want to apply sooner rather than later so that you can secure your spot with us. You can register online on the Master Practitioner in Human-Centered Performance landing page. There's a button right at the top where you can register. And we do have several discount options that you can also find on that exact same page. It's a little farther towards the bottom. So a couple of those discounts include a 30% alumni discount. So once a Hoya, always a Hoya. It does not matter if you were an undergrad with Georgetown, took a master's degree with them, another certificate program, you are a Hoya. So you are eligible for an alumni discount. And we also still have our discount for displaced federal employees. So if you think you are eligible for any of those discounts, let us know. You can email pdcprograms@georgetown.edu, and our enrollment team will get that all set up with you. One of the other great things is after you complete the program, you will receive a Georgetown certificate as well as a digital badge. And so these badges you can use to put on LinkedIn and other social media websites to show that you have completed a program with Georgetown, and it'll say what program specifically that you took with us.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that's great.
yeah.
That's super. Thank you so much, Ariel. Great information. And this master practitioner in human-centered performance, it's something we're really proud of. And Paco, as Jessica mentioned, is just an incredible, incredible member of our Georgetown community. And we are all so excited, really, for you to meet him. So before we kind of wrap up, Jessica, just kind of sort of a rapid fire, sum up here. Um, what would you say, really, if you could name a couple of behaviors, let's say, that really distinguish leaders who are able to not only create sort of strong human impact, and strong organizational performance, but leaders who are kind of open to allowing that AI, that generative AI to enter their practice. What would you kind of say about that, kind of those distinguishing behaviors and maybe how the certificate can kind of move them forward, move the needle?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Lisa. I would say one of the most important characteristics is asking good questions, right? And actually,
Mm,
Einstein had said that, if he was given an hour to solve a problem, he would spend the vast majority of it figuring out what is the right question, right? And so this is where really great leaders ask great questions and really listen to the people in around them, right? And to their various stakeholders and constituencies. And this is where also the partnership with AI comes in, because asking the right questions, asking good questions of AI, and then asking the good questions of what you get back is a key uh, differentiator in whether we just take whatever AI says or we actually use our own intelligence, intuition, knowing, and get the best of all of those worlds.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I'm really fully confident that whatever questions learners are that have in the back of their mind entering this program, they're going to be answered by this program, and it's going to really, carry their practice forward. So, I want to just wrap by thanking all of you for being here today. Ariel, Jessica, so great to have this conversation with you. And again, thank all of you for joining us to learn a little bit more about this Master Practitioner in Human-Centered Performance. And just want to, just kind of reiterate a few points that this certificate is practical, it's applied, it's future facing, very, very important. And again, if you're interested in taking it, and we really hope you are, and again, those that deadline is coming up, that certificate is coming up. Really just visit the Georgetown School of Continuing Studies website, and the enrollment steps are all there. Very easy and user friendly. And if you have any questions at all, we have Julia on the screen here. I'm not going to put her on the spot, but just email pdcprograms@georgetown.edu and you will get a live person who will answer your questions. So, again, thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you at another one of our Profiles and Professional Pathways LinkedIn event. Bye, everyone.